So this is a fun one. This is from the Eadwine Psalter, 9th to 12th century, and that's Adam and Eve. But there is speculation that the fruit that they're eating there, you see, these psilocybin mushrooms, right? Because they're the only kind of mushroom that grow like that. So that's pretty wild, you might say. And then this is I think it's called Banisteria vine, if I remember correctly, and it's what ayahuasca is made out of, and it has this double helix form, which is very, very interesting. And the natives, nobody could figure out how the hell they made this ayahuasca, which transports people spiritually in a very intense manner. And there's a whole religion based on it, like a modern religion as well as the archaic religion. And to make this stuff, they had to take two plants that don't grow anywhere near each other. And there's like 1 million plants in the Amazon, so how do you figure that out? Nobody knows. And then you have to cook them in this very particular way for a particular amount of time before you produce this stuff. So one of the plants has DMT in it, which is a very intense psychedelic, but it's very short acting. And the other has a MAO inhibitor. So if you take the DMT and you take the MAO inhibitor, then the DMT trip lasts for much longer. And so that's what these Amazonian natives figured out. And no one has any idea how they managed it. And if you ask them, they tell you that the plants told them how to do it, which isn't much of an explanation as far as modern people are concerned. But then when modern people take the ayahuasca and the plant, so to speak, starts to talk to them, they're a little less leery of the whole theory that the plants had something to do with this. So, and these things, I'm loath to talk about this because I'm not an advocate for drug use. But by the same token, you can't ignore empirical data. It's not reasonable. And the empirical data that psychedelic substances can produce mystical experiences and that those often have a transformative effect. I mean, one of the latest studies showed that if you took people who were dying of cancer and you gave them psilocybin in a sufficient dose to produce a mystical experience, that you radically decreased their fear of death. It's like, you got to think about that, man. That's tough. That's a tough experiment. You just wouldn't expect that. You think, you take someone, you derange them intensely, and then when they come back, they're not, even though they're dying, they're not nearly as afraid of dying. You got to kind of wake up and smell the roses when you see something like that. And the people who are doing this research are very reliable people. So there's the Amanita muscaria. There's this old idea, it's quite a funny idea, toadstools. So flies like Amanita muscaria. And this is ridiculous, there's some evidence that they actually like getting stoned. So, because animals will eat these, like reindeer will eat these things too, and they get pretty tripped out by them. And so I have this book on psychedelic use among animals, which is a small book, but, and so there's this idea that toads used to sit around the Amanita muscaria and wait for the stone flies to buzz badly around them and then snap them up. So that's pretty funny, I think. And there are mushrooms in the US that are the oldest organisms on the planet. Hey, there's one mushroom, I can't remember where it is, but it covers something like, oh God, I don't know, hundreds of square miles. It's like this huge thing, because it's all underground, right? And they have these very complex networks of mycelia, they're called. And they think the thing is like 150,000 years old, something like that. So there's plenty of things about the world that we don't know, that's for sure.